Welcome back, folks. In this episode, I get put to the test. I call a 3-bet with ace-jack, flop an ace, and on the river, my opponent shoves for 2x pot, $2,000. And I am forced to make a hero call with just an ace. Can I do it? You'll have to stay tuned to find out, but I'm going to cover two episodes that I played over the last two sessions I played over the last 2 days at the Win. Very fun hands, lots of swings, a lot of pots over 4 figures. These were two of the biggest sessions I played, just in terms of money going in and out of my stack. They were so much fun. Stick around. Let's get into some poker. I've been playing at this table for a little bit now, so picking up a few reads. And I opened up the ace-jack offsuit to $15 on the hijack. Small blind has called, and now big blind squeezes to $40. Getting a lot of bet size and tells from this guy. So I'm going to 4-bet for value here with ace-jack. You know, his hands are going to be so merged here. I just think he's got hands like pocket 8s, 9s, some like, I don't know, just really merged hands. So I think my ace-jack's definitely ahead of that, and I can size up as big as I want here. I fired a huge 4-bet of 150. Small blind folds, and my opponent makes the call. Off to a flop of jack 7-3, 2 clubs. We definitely have the best hand here, so I'm going to fire a small bet of 100. To which my opponent asks, why so small? You know, he makes a call off to turn, which is the 10 of clubs. I don't expect him to have a flush here too often, so I'm still going to keep firing. I want to get the stacks in. We're looking at about 2.5 SPR, so about 65-70% makes sense, but doesn't be too big. He checks it over, and I'm not worried about jack 10 here, really, because I don't know. Maybe I should have been, because I did put him on a merge range, which jack 10 suited does get in there, but I don't know. Against this guy, I just want to go for it all. I fire up for 350, probably could size up a little bit here. My opponent makes the call. Then we get to the river, which is the ace of spades. And now my opponent is in the tank, which is really weird. He takes a minute and a half here tanking before he announces check, and I snap shove all in. This long tank where he counted out a bet on this river, he just doesn't want to see a bet. And now he's in the tank for 4 minutes. It is really long. The player to my right now calls clock on him, and my opponent is just starting to get really flustered. He's saying this is either ace king or aces. I beat ace king, can't beat aces, I can't beat jacks. Just going through these hands in his head, and I'll let you guys listen into the floor man count it down. Here you go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
And that is it. With 3 seconds to go, my opponent tosses in the call. I show, and my opponent indeed had the jack 10 suited. So what a run out to get the max here. He turns 2 pair, I turn a bigger 2 pair. Look at that flop turn river, just so nice. Really glad I put in the 4-bet pre-flop, and what a hand. On to the next hand, we pick up ace 3 suited under the gun +2, and the player to my right is raised to 20. Usually this would be a 3-bet or fold, but this is a very passive table. I'm not expecting to get squeezed, so I can toss in the call here sometimes. We also get a call from the big blind, so 3 ways to a flop of queen, queen, jack, 1 spade. Really no hope, probably going to fold to a bet, but it checks to me. Definitely not looking to bet here, so I just toss in the check, and we're off to the turn, which is the 4 of clubs. Big blind now checks, under the gun checks once again, and I've got way better hands to bluff here, so I'm just going to check this back. River is the 8 of clubs. 10-9 does get there, but someone would have bet 10-9, especially under the gun. Big blind maybe would have checked it. And I guess pocket 8s get there, but pocket 8s are also betting. So big blind now checks, and now under the gun fires on an overbet of $75. This makes no sense. Pocket 8s would have bet on the turn, 10-9 would have bet. You know, maybe he's got to trap pocket queens, but I just don't believe it. So I'm going to fire in my own nonsense raise, because I don't have anything here, but I'm just hoping that he's not going to think about it and just fold before he can figure it out. I raised it up very small to 175. Big blind fold, and indeed my opponent just snap folds and doesn't even think about it. That is a pretty nice pot to pick up there that definitely didn't belong to us. The opponent in this hand, we are just going to call him Mr. X. He has not had too many beers at this point and is playing very snug, ABC poker, not getting out of line, and just not really bluffing. You know, quite snug for now. It's foreshadowing. I raise up the ace 7 of diamonds up to $15, hijack calls, cutoff calls, and Mr. X calls in the big blind. We are 4 ways to the flop, which comes down king 6-4, 2 diamonds. Checks to me, I fired a bet of 20, hijack calls, cutoff folds, and now big blind raises it up to $90. Definitely not going to shove it here. We're only getting called by sets and 2 pairs, and I just don't see him having a bluff here. So I toss in the call, hijack folds, and we're looking to hit a diamond on the turn, which we do in the king of diamonds, which is really iffy. Now my opponent fires out a very small bet of $70. Oh, I just feel like we're getting milked here, but I got a call and hope that he checks the river, so I toss it in. River is the 5 of clubs. Now my opponent fires out $320, pretty much an all-in, and I hate this. I know I have a nut flush, and I should call here, but I honestly think the only bluffs that he's raising here are going to be combo draws, which the 7 of diamonds is the worst card for that. I block 7-8 of diamonds, and I block 7-5 of diamonds. So I hate having the 7 of diamonds here, even though it's a nut flush. I don't think they're all equal. So I just don't see any way we are ever winning this hand with that tiny bet on the turn and this, shove on the river. Yeah, I just don't see it. I'm going to make a fold, a very disciplined fold here. And I'm going to show my card, see if my opponent shows. So I tell him, please, just embarrass me. I fold and show. Unfortunately, my opponent does not show, and he's going to scoop in that paw. We don't get the closure, but I am 90% sure I made the correct decision there. On to the next hand. I open up my under the gun range quite a bit when the table's a little bit loose and passive, especially passive. I fire out the king 6 of diamonds for $15. Get a few callers, so we're going 3 ways to the flop, which comes down queen 9-4, 2 diamonds. So pretty nice flop. I fire it out for 15. Both my opponents make the call. Off to the turn, which is the 5 of spades. Doesn't change much. I fire it out once again for $65. Under the gun folds, and button makes the call. Opposite river looking to improve, and we sort of do. We hit a 6 of spades. Don't like bluff and miss flush draws, and we do have some showdown value that beat lower flush draws. So I check it over, and my opponent snap bets 150. I'm just wondering what hands want to bet like this quickly on this run out that don't raise before this. And it's just like ace queen or king queen really that I could think of. And we're still beating missed flush draws except for 7-8 of diamonds, which would suck. But I just don't see him fire anything other than a strong queen here. So I get a little curious and I throw in the hero call, and my opponent shows the queen 3 of hearts. Very shocked to see that hand. I just wanted to include this one because I don't make the correct hero call every time. Sometimes I do pay it off. The under the gun straddle is live. We're looking at 3 callers, and I raise the ace deuce of hearts up to $80 to go. Straddle folds, middle position folds, hijack calls, cutoff calls, and button folds. So we're going 3 ways to a flop of ace 7-3 rainbow. My hand's not that great. I don't want to range bet 3 ways, so I just check it over, and it checks through. Opposite turn, which is the 10 of hearts, really nice card, pick of the nut flush draw. I check it over, and now hijack fires out a pretty big bet of 150. It's not too big, it's like a little bit over half pop, but he did it quite quickly. Cutoff folds, and this is the player this is Mr. X that I folded nut flush to, but our hand's a bit too strong, so I toss in the call. We're off to the river, which is the 6 of spades. I check it over, and now he just fires out a very quick bet of 375. A really quick bet. And his last few bets were slow. Like, really slow when he had the value. Well, the value. I don't know if he actually did, but these bets are really quick, and I'm just not buying them. Plus, these bet lines are generally going to be weaker than a check raise line from a recreational player. So I think we can toss in the hero call here. I just don't think we're beat here. So I toss in the call. He gives it the you're good. I show, and indeed, the ace deuce is good. And this is a turning point for Mr. X. This is the hand, folks. Looking on a limp, and I raise ace jack offsuit up to 25 in middle position. Folds around to Mr. X in the small blind, who makes it 105. Folds back to me, and this player has been going nuts. 3-betting a ton of hands. I saw him 4-bet 10-8 suited to $600 something off a $200 3-bet, and then showed the table. And he's been 3-betting relentlessly. So ace jack off in position. I'm very happy to play this. I toss in the call, and we go to a flop of ace 9-6 2 spades. My opponent takes 3 seconds and fires out a bet of $85. Nothing to do here but call. We go to the turn, which is the 5 of hearts. 7-8 does get there, but I've been seeing him 3-bet more linear and a lot of suited one gappers. Not so much medium strength hands like ace 5 suited or 7-8 or 9-8, more like suited one gappers and then some stronger hands. Now he takes his time a little bit and fires out for $250. A little bit dicey, kind of worried about ace king, ace queen here, but I'm going to toss in the call, see what happens on the river. River's kind of nice. It's the king of diamonds, and my opponent takes 3 seconds to shove it all in. Look at this. Yeah, 3 seconds, and has shoved $2,023 into a pot of $890. Oh, that's not fun. That is not fun. So, I'm not worried about a straight here. No flushes get in. I'm not worried about any 2 pairs here besides ace king. And that river's really nice, unless he has pocket kings, then that river's really bad. So his hands here are just ace king, aces, kings. And that's pretty much it. I'm not worried about anything else. He's not going to have ace 9, ace 6, ace 5, or 6-5 suited, anything like that. He's not going to have a straight. So his range is really small, and he took 3 seconds to ship it all in. Yeah, I don't know. We just saw those like really big, really quick bets to really be bluffy, so I'm just going to go with my read here. And I'm going to fire. I'm going to make this $2,000 call. I flick my 1K chip in. He looks up. The table says, "You're good."
Oh.
And the ace jack is going to win this nearly $5,000 pot. Picking up the ace king offsuit in early position, I raise up to 15, hijack calls, and now Mr. X 3 bets to $90. He's a little bit deep here, so I'm not going to go for the 4 bet. I'm just going to call and play some post flop. Hijack folds, we go to a flop of queen jack 9, 2 diamonds. Do have a gut shot, but not much else going, so I check it over, and he fires out a really quick bet of 105. I don't believe these quick bets, so I toss in the call. We're up to a turn, which is the 4 of diamonds. I check it over, and he just snap bets again for 375, pretty much pot on a really board-changing turn. And this should just be a fold, but I'm just going to go with my read again. Like these really big, really fast bets have just been shown to be complete error. And I go back to his pre-flop sizing. It was really big. Maybe he's got 10-8 again, but how often can he get dealt 10-8 suited? But he's just been 3-betting relentlessly, 2-3 hands in orbit. But the big size kind of feels like pocket jacks, but whatever if he's got that. And we've been crushing this guy, so I'm happy to give back some action. I'm going to do something pretty unorthodox here, and I just ship it all in. I don't think he's going to call with most of his range. Unfortunately, this time he snaps us off, and I tell him, "You're good, I'm dead to 4 outs." We go to the river, which is the 9 of spades, so close to a 10. I show, and my opponent did indeed have the pocket jacks this time. A little bit of a punt, but I don't mind that one, to be honest. It's a new day. We're back at the win. Bought in for 1,500, ready to go. Button has now raised to 25. His raise size is really big pre-flop, so I'm mostly going to be playing 3-bet or fold versus him, and I don't think his range is that tight. So 3-bet or fold is definitely the way to go. I make it 100, and my opponent tosses in the call. Off to a flop of king 9-4 rainbow. This is a perfect hand to triple off here, blocking ace king and king queen. And also lots of floats like gut shots like queen 10 and queen jack, so I think I really like this hand as a triple barrel. I fire up for 65, my opponent makes the call. Off to a turn, which is really bad. It's a 9 of spades, so there goes my plan. I'm going to check it over, see what my opponent wants to do. And what he wants to do is check it back. Off to the river, which is quite interesting. It's another king. I think about leading out here for a little bit of value. Maybe get heroed by a queen or jack, but I think checking makes a bit more money. So I check it over, try to induce a bluff, and my opponent fires out for 225. I don't think this is a player that's going to go for thin value with 10s, jacks, or queens. If he does, that's really impressive, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So I think he's going to counterfeit 2-pair, or pocket pair rather. So I toss in the call. It says ace high is good. Roll it over, and indeed it is. Okay, Under the Gun straddle is live. Low jack has limped. Hijack raised to 30. There's another caller, and I have 6-5 suited in the small blind. I decide this time just to toss in the call, and the straddler calls as well as a low jack. So we're 4 ways to a flop, which is beautiful. 4-3 deuce, 2 spades, flop the nuts. Check it over, under the gun checks, and now low jack leads out for $75. Hijack folds. This is an older gentleman, so he's definitely got at least a set here. There's no sense in waiting. I'm just going to check raise to 250, under the gun folds, and my opponent calls. Looking for a safe turn. It is the 7 of hearts, bringing another flush draw. I just don't want any action killers. If he's got a hand like ace-5 or a set, you know, like a 5 on the river would be really bad. And this man's not folding, so I fire all in. My opponent makes the call. River, looking for a non-board pairing river. It is the deuce of clubs. I know I'm no good. I show, and my opponent indeed has the pocket 3s. Unfortunate. In this next hand, we're looking at 2 limps, and I've got king jack offsuit on the button. I raise things up to $30. Small blind calls, under the gun, and low jack also make the call. And what do you know? We flop another straight. Back-to-back hands. Checks to me, gonna fire a bet of $40 here, and everyone continues. Looking for a blank turn. You know, every time I flop a straight, the board just gets so messy. But we actually get a decent turn. The 6 of diamonds, introducing another flush draw, and we still have the nuts, which is insane. I was expecting the jack of clubs to peel off. Small blind checks, everyone checks to me. Gonna keep firing here. I can size up a little bit, so I fire out for 210. Small blind calls, and under the gun calls, and then low jack folds. Can we really keep a clean run out? Can we? River is the deuce of spades. We still have the nuts. Small blind checks, under the gun checks, and my plan was just to fire all in here. And I'm just fake tanking a little bit, trying to decide, trying to make it look like I might have missed clubs. But while I was fake tanking, I was actually doing some thinking, and their hands can't be that strong, you know? I'm trying to get value from a hand like Queen 10 here, right? So I don't want to go too big, and the last moment I caught myself, changed my bet sizing from an all-in to $450. Small blind folds right away, which means he definitely had the flush draw. Under the gun is in the tank now, and says, you know what? Really nice sizing. I'm going to pay it off. Tosses in the call. I show. Obviously, it's good. And yeah, really happy to change my bet size in there the last second and get that extra $450 in value. Picking up the 7-5 suited under the gun here. I think this is a fine open in call-happy games. No players are squeezing or 3-betting behind, so I put up to $15, and we go 3 ways to the flop. We see the 4 of hearts on the window, the 6, and the 3. I flopped 3 straights in a row. Yeah. What a day. I start with a check here. Under the gun now fires up for $60. This player has been running so bad. I think he's taken more bad beats in the last 2 hours than I have in the last 6 months, the poor guy. Middle position folds, and I'm just going to call here. Turn is the 5 of diamonds. This is what I expect when I flop a straight. You know, these terrible turns. I check it over. My opponent fires out for 100. I think raising a little bit too crazy here. He's going to fold out his sort of value hand. So I toss in the call, and we see the 8 of hearts on the river. I check it over. It's a pretty nice card, to be honest. And my opponent, unfortunately, checks back. I show the 7-5. My opponent actually had the 6-5 suited. So we turn the 2 pair, and he had a pretty strong hand on the flop, too. That is rough for him. But flopping 3 straights in a row, not bad. We are playing against the same opponent as the last hand. He's still running extremely bad. But I raise up the Queen 10 of diamonds and cut off to 15, and only he makes the call. So we're heads up to a flop. King 6-4, 1 diamond. Card's got some pretty good backdoors, so I'm going to fire out a bet. I think if I bet $10, he's just going to raise too often. If I fire out something more reasonable, like 15, I don't see him raising. So I just fire out 15, and my opponent makes the call. Turn is beautiful. It's a 9 of diamonds. We pick up the gut shot as well as the flush draw. I'm going to go about 2x pot here against him. I just want to put his like King X in a rough spot. You know, he's running bad. He's just not going to feel good with a hand like King Jack here. So I fire up for 110, and he snap calls. So I am probably not going to bluff this player in his current state. He just doesn't seem like he's going to want to fold. Over river is the Jack of diamonds. We bank the straight flush on the river. And since this player is just probably not going to fold anything, I debated between a 2x pot and an all-in. And ultimately, I thought that if I went all in, he might find a fold with a king. So I just opt for the 2x pot. I fire up for 600. And my opponent says, sorry, dude, I backdoored a flush. You poor guy. He is running so bad. He tosses in the call. Show him the bad news. Like, this man is probably in for like $8,000 in like an hour and a half. Oh, really brutal for him. But that is a $1,500 pot in a single raise pot. Huge. That's 4 straights in a row. In this next hand, hijack is raised to $25. It's a little bit big, but cutoff has called. And I've got ace-jack offsuit on the button. Since the cutoff is called, I think it's okay to call this in position. We really want to get in some pots with the cutoff. And folds rounds. We're 3 ways to the flop, which comes down 10, 10, 3, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. Hijack fires out a bet of half pot for $40. Cutoff calls, and with the ace of hearts, definitely want to find some bluffs here. It's nice to have a jack or a 9 here. And since I'm not going to have ace-9 offsuit, ace-jack makes sense to block jack-10. Especially with the jack of spades. There's only one combo with jack-10 suited left. So I re-raise things up to 160. Hijack calls and the cutoff folds. Off the turn, which is the 4 of spades. No help to us, but I'm just going to keep barreling here. He checks it over. It stacks a little bit too big to go for the overbet here, and I don't really like overbets on paired boards, so we're not going to go geometric here. I just fire up for 310. Opponent thinks for a while and once again makes the call. Planning to give up on all non-heart rivers, and the river is the 3 of clubs, so I'm going to be super selective with my bluffs. Ace of hearts here, just not going to make it. So I check it back. Opponent made 2 really good calls with pocket kings there. That one is not going our way. Okay, picking up pocket aces for like the first time in 5 days. I actually picked up pocket aces 2 more times after this. Both times in the small blind. Both times I chopped the blinds. But this time I picked them up in the under the gun player position. I raise up to 15. Player to my left calls. He is a surgeon from a convention, and so is the button, who now puts in the squeeze to $125. This is what dreams are made of. With this sizing, I can 4-bet here, and I don't want to go too crazy big to allow him to fold a hand like queens or jacks. So I'm not going to go too big, but definitely want to start piling money in. So I raise it up to 350. His friend folds, and my opponent makes the call. We go to a very nice flop of 4-4 deuce, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. And I just want to put in a really small bet here to induce a jam with an overpair, which I think is going to happen very often. So I fire for 200, and like clockwork, my opponent ships it all in. I am happy to call. I show my pocket aces. My opponent does have the pocket queens. Turn is the 9 of spades. River, 7 of clubs, and we are going to scoop this $2,800 pot. Okay, in this next hand, under the gun is raised to 25. Middle position is called. I look down at 6-5 of spades in the big blind. I did about 15% or 25% squeeze and 75% call. I just don't want to get 4-bet and play this hand out of position. So I just tossed in the call, and we go to a really nice flop of king 7-4, 1 spade, 2 diamonds. I check it over. My opponent now fires up for 40. Middle position makes a call, and I really like this hand as a bluff, so I raise things up to 200. Opponent thinks for a little bit, makes the call, and middle position folds. Off to the turn, which is the beautiful deuce of spades. We pick up the flush draw as well. And over here, I'm just going to go for a pot-sized bet and probably shove blank rivers. Yeah, that sounds nice. I fire up for 515, pot-sized bet. Opponent doesn't think for too long and tosses in the call. So if the river's like a 9 of clubs, we may see a $9,000-something pot. River, however, is the brutal 7 of clubs. Oh, it's just so bad. I am going to have to drop a ton of bluffs from here. I'm not going to fire any diamonds anymore, even the ones that aren't relevant. So, yeah, a lot of my 6-5 suited are going to start going to check call mode on the turn. I just lose so much value. Like, my pocket 7's only 1 combo now. I still have my pocket 4s, but they're not going to want to use too big of a sizing. And then my king 7 and king 4 suiteds also kind of get a little bit shriveled up. Right? I only get 1 combo king 7 suited now, so since I have so few bluffs and my value range is shrunk, I'm going to have to use a smaller sizing. I thought the pot was like 1100 here, but I fired up for 350. It's a little bit smaller than I like. I should have fired about 515 again, probably. And my opponent doesn't love it, but unfortunately the sizing is too small for him to do anything, and he does toss in the call. And he shows the king-queen off. Really nice call by my opponent. Really wish the river was something else so I could just ship it in. But, yeah, that's a pretty big pot not going our way. Under the gun straddle is live. Low jack has raised up to $40, and I didn't realize the straddle was on, so I just saw this as a really big bet. If I noticed the straddle was on, I definitely would have 3-bet this hand, but in the moment I didn't realize, and I just tossed in the call, which also invites the player to my left in, who's a very fun player. So we are 3 ways to a flop of king, king, jack, 1 heart. Low jack now checks it over. I'm going to check it, and now the button fires up for 25. he has been playing insane. He's gone all in like 40 out of the last 30 hands. So he's just betting everything. Low jack calls. I'm definitely going to call my gut shot. And our hand might be good. Off to turn, which is another king. We 2 pick up a royal flush draw. So low jack checks. I check. Button fires out for 50. Low jack calls once again. And I'm going to go for the royal. I toss in the call. And river is the ace of spades. So we do make top boat. Low jack checks. Cut off checks. And button on cue fires out all in for 265. He's gone all in every river he's gotten to, so I'm not even worried about him. And now low jack is being really vocal. He showed his hand to the player to my right. He's also said, I hate that river. And then tosses in the call. He took a long time, so I don't want to do any fake tanking. I'm just going to go for the min raise, and I raise up to 530. Low jack immediately folds, and button shows us the bad news in the King 7 offsuit. The one time he had a hand. The one time. That is not going to go our way. Very nice quads, my friend. That's going to wrap up that episode. I actually played 3 sessions over here. I didn't record the 1-3 because I just don't record 1-3 anymore, but I sat in the game for 11 minutes. I played 5 hands, and I won all 5 of them and booked a $710 win. I flush over flush someone, and in a 3-bet pot, I river top pair, top kicker, and managed to get it all in. And the other 3 hands were relatively small, but $710 for 11 minutes in 1-3, I'll take it. The first day, I almost booked a $4,000 win. I was just about to leave before I sort of punted that ace-king hand for $1,700 or so. I still booked a pretty sizable win of like $2,715 or so, and then can't remember what I won on day 3, but I will put it right there and add up the totals for you guys. An enormous win. I think it's over $5,000. Bankroll numbers are down there. Bankroll's coming along really nicely. We're nearly at $32,000, so 18,000 more to go over the next 7 weeks, and then I'll probably feel comfortable losing about 15K in a day over the Lodge live stream, but we'll see. Thank you guys once again so much for watching. Please throw a like down below. It really helps the channel and just really exponentially increases the views, so if you do that, I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.